Welcome to Photoactive, a podcast about photography and technology. I'm Kirk McElhearn.
And I'm Jeff Carlson.
So I just learned a really good new word that Jeff told me. It's going to be the title of this episode, Spec Goblins. Tell me about this.
I just heard this term on social media. I can't take credit for it. A spec goblin is somebody online who just focuses on the specs of a device or a camera or a computer or a phone or whatever, and not just focuses on it, but basically uses that to, gatekeep people away. And you can probably guess what we're going to be talking about today.
And we're going to mention this later when we talk about a video from Chris Nichols on Petapixel, why you probably don't need an f1.2 lens, because f1.2 lens is the spec goblins. They don't want f1.4. That's for, people who don't know how to take pictures, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, that kind of distills it. X is for people who don't blank, right?
Yes.
If you aren't aware of how good these specs are or how bad these specs are, then you're not worthy of being in this discussion or whatever. It's this thing that you and I have run into our entire careers in tech, and it gets really frustrating just because it's like, well, this doesn't have this processor, so you don't need it, or it's going to be bad for you, or it's a bad product, or all that kind of stuff.
The understanding is more that it's a bad product when people say that.
Yeah.
Not that it's not for you. It's that it's a bad product and you're choosing the wrong product because I know the right product. And this goes back. I remember people talking about cars back in the 70s, 0 to 60 in how many seconds, and it's got 7 speeds instead of just 4 or whatever. And it's kind of the same. It's like, how many cubic centimeters is the carburetor? And, it's like, who cares? It's a car. It's got wheels and a steering wheel and airbags. Airbags are important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the reason
sense.
we brought this up is because we're going to talk about the new Apple laptop called the MacBook Neo. And I just saw on Mac Rumors that the reason for this name is because it sounds fun.
Okay. That's good enough reason.
We wanted something that felt fun and friendly and fresh and felt like it really suited the spirit of the product. And aside from the alliteration there, fun and friendly and fresh and felt like, I don't think Neo sounds fun. And someone I mentioned it to yesterday online who hadn't seen it come out, and I said, oh, do they have a picture of him on the laptop? Because thinking back to the Matrix movie, the main character is Neo. What I think is, remember, Apple's a global company and they need words that work around the world in every language. So it's a Latin word and anyone can understand it. It's like a MacBook Air, but it's $500 less.
Yeah. And it's not nearly as powerful, and it comes in fun colors.
Fun.
And see, I've already been co-opted by the marketing. But actually, when you mentioned the Matrix, I wonder if some people are bent out of shape because they heard Neo, they thought of the Matrix because they are of a certain age, and now they're disappointed that it's not as cool and sophisticated and high-powered as what that – you know what? That is a very flimsy theory, and it still would not surprise me if some of it was true.
Yep.
Anyway, so the whole point of the MacBook Neo is that this is a inexpensive, probably largely education-focused laptop that is $600. That's the thing. It's $600.
And it's only $500 for the education market.
And it's only $500 for the education market. Yeah, exactly. And so we are in a time period where you can get really, really cheap laptops. Chromebooks, I don't know, $200-$300 maybe.
Even less. But you can get some for around $100 or $150. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot of experience other than I have a teenager who has had to have Chromebooks that are assigned by the school district, and they are all crap. They're just crap. And so here comes a laptop made by Apple with Apple design, made of aluminum. It's not plastic,
not
crappy,
plastic.
crappy thing. It is running the processor that was in the iPhone 16 Pro, which is very curious.
My iPhone
has a decent screen, good keyboard, no keyboard backlighting, but like you think about entry-level laptops and lots of things get thrown off the table because you need to bring it down to a certain price point. And this seems like you're getting a lot of computer for that price point. And of course, people are going crazy about that because it doesn't match what they want. Oh, I should also mention it's 256 gigs of storage built in and 8 gigs of RAM memory. And that's really where a lot of people are getting hung up. But there's more to talk about with that too.
I think most people don't install Xcode, which is like 20 gigabytes. Most people don't install, a whole bunch of apps. So until last year, I have an iMac and I have a laptop, and I've always had a desktop and a laptop because sometimes I'm using both. I always need one in case my desktop breaks down and I'm still working and I need repairs. None of my laptops had more than 256 until last year when I upgraded my M2 MacBook Air to the M4 MacBook Air. They had 256, previous had 128, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't feel the need, even though I use a lot of apps, I don't really need to have more space. Now I've got 512, but I could live with 256.
I was going to ask how much you actually bumped it up to.
I got the 512, yeah.
The 512. That's still totally reasonable, workable. For photographers, I think – go ahead.
And this is for professional use, remember. One of the reasons I got the 512 is that the SSD is slower on the base model with only 256, and it's faster with the 512. Remember that a couple years ago with the MacBook Air.
Right.
And it might have been the M2 was the first that had that. Now, here we are spec goblining. But this is kind of important. And I did have the first M2 MacBook Air with the slower SSD, and it was noticeable. But the thing about this computer is it's for people who don't have a computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for people who, or you might be replacing a 7-year-old or 10-year-old Mac or something like that, or you might be replacing a cheap Windows laptop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for everyone. It's probably not for most of the people listening to this podcast, unless you're just doing casual photo editing.
Yeah. So I haven't looked at all the videos about this, but one of them that I did see that we'll put in the show notes was by MKBHD.
Marcus Brownlee.
Marcus Brownlee. I just think of the initials. I don't think of his actual name. Sorry, Marcus. But he had a great video on this. First impressions, because he had just come from the event where it was announced this last Wednesday. And he said, look, if you are watching this video right now on the day that it was announced, this computer is not for you. If you are asking yourself, is this going to replace a MacBook Air? This computer is not for you. If you have that thought that says, yes, but can it edit 8K video? This is not your computer, which is such a great point. Now, I'm going to swerve a little bit because we do have to get into some of the specs because Kirk is looking at me. Kirk's eyes just went really, really big. He's like, wait.
Yeah, I want to hear what specs are important here.
Because in the context of photography, some of those specs matter. Now, not that you're going to get like the best performance, but I think there's going to be a number of photographers who are going to be looking at this and they're going to say, all right, I have an old laptop or an old computer or Windows computer or whatever. Maybe this is what I want because I've chosen to put my money into camera bodies and lenses and all of that. Do I also need to spend
f1.2 lenses?
F1.2 lenses. If you've bought the f1.2 lenses, then maybe this is not a consideration because you either have no money at all or you have lots of money. So you get to that point where I don't know if I want to spend another $1,600, $2,000, $3,000 on a computer to process all my images. And so, maybe something like this, which is it kind of fits into that area between like a nice iPad. Like maybe as a photographer, you want an iPad, but there are limitations there. This is like the cost of a good iPad, a capable iPad, but you also get the keyboard and you get the screen and all of that. So, I can absolutely see photographers looking at this and saying this could be like a nice, lightweight photo processor that I don't have to, make a massive MacBook Pro style investment in. And I should probably also point out, Apple also announced brand new MacBook Pros with M5 and M5 Pro and M5 Max processors, like all of that. So like all that's available if you want to go that route too.
Worth pointing out that it's $599. It's another $100 to go up to 512 gigabytes of storage and Touch ID. The base model doesn't have Touch ID. And I read something interesting about this. You don't want Touch ID in an educational setting.
Yeah.
Students have to log in individually. So for the education market, you don't want that. So that would bring you to $699. Here's an idea. For $50 more, you can buy a refurbished M4 MacBook Air from Apple, $749, 16 gigs of memory, 256 gigs of storage, Thunderbolt ports, MagSafe, backlit screen, etc., etc. 1 year old, last year's model, but refurb from Apple. My current MacBook Air is a refurb from Apple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very good option.
So
very good way to go.
If you want something inexpensive, now there's a difference between $600 and $750, right? That's 25% more.
Yeah.
So if you're really looking to save money, the $600 for the Neo is good. But if you want a little bit more, go for the refurb. Don't go for the new MacBook Air, which has gone up $100 from the last model, from $999 to $1,099. Get the M4 refurb. It will last you for years. I was chatting with a couple of people online. One's still using an M1 MacBook Air, and it's fine for everything he does. You can't edit 8K video, et cetera, but for most things, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still using my M1 Max MacBook Pro. And what's funny is actually just this morning, I've paid it off and all of that. And so I opted to get the yearly Apple Care for, it's like $136 last year. And I was like, I'll just see if that becomes useful. And I didn't pay attention for the renewal. And so this morning I got renewed for another year. And I thought, oh, well, like maybe that was a mistake. I wasn't being attentive enough. But you know what? Again, this computer is serving me very well. So I'm fine paying that money to have some insurance on it in case something breaks, in case the screen goes out, in case the battery finally dips down. Like, honestly, the only thing that I'm having an issue with, and it's not even an issue, is that I have reduced battery capacity on this machine that started off with great battery life.
And so as long as you have Apple Care, when it gets below 80%, Apple replaces it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like that is a completely fine situation for me. Going back to the storage of the MacBook Neo, which I think triggered me down this spec rabbit hole, and here we are. We're specking a little bit, but we're not goblins because we're just bringing up really good practical things.
We're just rabbits.
We're just rabbits. One of the things that I do wonder is, if you are a photographer and you're looking at this machine, is 256 gigs enough internal storage to do what you need as a photographer? I think with this machine, if you're taking a lot of photos, you're going to be relying on external storage. You're going to be plugging in an external SSD. If you can afford one, see our last episode.
See our last episode when we were talking, and the price has been jumping up even since then.
Yep. And also there is a limitation of the USB-C ports that are on the MacBook Neo. One is USB 3. That's what you would connect an external SSD to. Another is USB 2. You wouldn't do that.
That would be to connect a mouse or a keyboard or an external peripheral of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you are considering this, which I think is a total valid consideration for a photographer, these are the small things that you need to keep in mind. And then the only other thing that comes to mind for all this is I totally believe that any sort of basic editing, photo management, like all that's going to be fine. Where you're going to hit some sort of a performance wall is going to be if you're trying to do like generative AI object replacement, some of those, more
Cleanup.
cleanup. Yeah, exactly. Like some of those features, like I'm genuinely curious to see how Lightroom runs on this. I suspect, like for example, running denoise on a raw file is pretty computationally expensive or computationally time consuming.
Onerous.
What?
Onerous. It's computationally onerous.
Computationally onerous. That's good. So I think that you will, have to wait maybe 4 or 5 times as long as you normally would, but maybe that's okay because you have decided I'm going to spend less money on this capable machine, and I'll know that if I'm going to do any of that sort of higher, more involved processing, that's when I'll go make tea.
So a friend of mine has a MacBook Air with an M1 Pro. Sorry, a MacBook Pro with an M1 Pro. Yours is an M1 Max, right?
Yeah.
And the Pro's better than the Max, or the Max is better than the Pro?
Max is better than the Pro.
Okay. And he looked it up. He compiled a chart with Geekbench. And so Geekbench is a Spec Goblin thing that tells how fast a processor is. And he says to me, the M1 Pro is about 78% of the Geekbench score of the M4. 78%. So you've got a 20% hit compared to the M4, which is the current MacBook Air.
Yeah.
And he said to me, unless the Air breaks, I can't see replacing it before it can't run whatever the current OS is. And that's certainly a consideration if you have an older Mac. And a good reason if you do have an older Mac to buy a new one, to buy the Neo or whatever, or go for that refurb MacBook Air M4 at $750. You cannot beat that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, honestly, the photographer mindset is I would imagine that someone would look at this and say, all right, this looks really appealing. But photographers, you can rationalize so many things. You can rationalize f1.2 lenses. So you can easily rationalize either a refurb MacBook Air or even, honestly, the current MacBook Air, even though it's more expensive, like still super capable, super good machine. And of course, you can doubly rationalize, well, maybe I need a MacBook Pro M5 Max because the machine that I currently have is now 5 years old. 2021. Yeah, like my machine is 5 years old. Yep. Not that anybody in this room is having that conversation in their head.
No,
but
not at all. Is this the longest you've ever had a Mac for professional use?
Oh, it's close to it. Yeah, I had one MacBook Pro, maybe one of the early ones that I was able to like swap in SSDs to replace the optical drive. Like I was able to extend it, but in terms of stock MacBook Pro without doing anything to it, because you can't really do anything to them now, this is by far. And again, I'm not seeing a real huge performance hit, which is just
that's
amazing.
The thing about the M series processors, that for most things they're fine, and you will see it when you start doing computational stuff. You'll see a difference, but for basic stuff you won't. So we've been doing this for 20 minutes, so let's just start getting some other topics in here. We're going to have a link to this video from Chris Nichols. You probably don't need an f1.2 lens, and there's not much to say other than it just kind of confirms what we've been talking about. And he points out some of the weaknesses of f1.2 lenses with vignetting and lack of sharpness in the corner and all that. And I think you don't need anything. Come on. Some of the greatest photos ever shot were done with, admittedly, a Leica, but with a 50 millimeter lens with maybe an f2. Well, f1.8 was what they had back then, right?
Yeah.
You look at some of the great photos of World War II or the great street photography of the 40s and the 50s. This was all just, they didn't have these aspherical lenses or whatever they've developed now. They just had lenses, and you're shooting, it's the composition, it's not the lens. And I know that for some people, the gear is part of the journey, right? But it's always worth considering how you just don't need all these things.
Yeah. Well, and I think if I remember correctly, in his video, he mentions, the very legitimate, sometimes like this is a specialized tool for specialized situations. Like some portrait photography, you are absolutely looking for that.
If you're a pro, nothing we say here affects you.
Yeah.
If you're a pro, you need the tool that you need. But for the rest of us, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Yeah. I also like, and I believe it was in this video, I've watched too many videos lately, where he also points out that like there are some night sky astrophotography lenses that are, like they really do need this because they really do need to gather all the light they can. But those are engineered slightly differently because they're for that specific purpose, right? So it's a good video. It's a good rational look at like what you really, really need. And I guess partly it's also, go into this with your eyes open and don't just be like, ooh, f1.2 is so much better than f1.4 because it has 0.2 less of something, right?
Well, that's actually what
it doesn't work
half a
that
stop,
way. But
2/3 a stop. Yeah, it's logarithmic, I think.
Yeah. But also keep in mind that these f1.2 lenses are also the companies kind of bragging about what they can make and how they are, like how adept they are, so that you're going to look at that and say, wow, they made this f1.2 lens. It's got these optical qualities. That's really, really cool. I don't need that, but maybe I will get their 50 millimeter 1.4 instead of the one by this other competitor. So like that also plays into all this.
And that's why Formula One teams will be driving, I don't know, do they do Fords in Formula One to make you think that the Ford that you buy is going to be able to go vroom, vroom? I don't know if that's the case.
They do not, but they, Well, see, when you mentioned F1.2, I was like, oh, is that a new racing league?
There's a sequel to that Apple movie, F1. I think they're going to call it F2.
They can't call it F2.
Anyway, I want to talk about one other new device that came out last week, the Leica Lights phone powered by Xiaomi.
Yes.
And so this is a really odd device. It looks wrong. Instead of what are they calling the thing on the iPhone now? The plateau?
The camera plateau, yeah.
The camera plateau. So this has a circle with multiple lenses, and you can spin it around to change lenses. And so Leica has been partnering with Xiaomi for a couple of years, and they've been selling cameras in China, and this is the first one that's going worldwide, and it's going to have a red dot on it, which the one in China has not had.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, I don't know how many lenses. It just looks weird. One of the problems is it's $2,300 US, and spending that much on a mobile phone that is a camera rather than just whatever mobile phone and then buying a camera. Right? Like what how much does the X100 VI cost? 2,000?
1,600, I think.
1,600. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you buy that, you've got 700 to buy an iPhone. And because this is a smartphone and it's not going to last long. It's going to last a few years at most. And it just seems, as a proof of concept, it's interesting, but it just seems like, why would you buy a phone like this?
I think if you are, after you've purchased your f1.2 lens and you're looking for a camera that you can also have, I think it kind of fits into that same category. It is really cool, and actually the dial on it, it's not moving the lenses. It's basically just like a control dial, and you can set it to like change for exposure compensation, or you can, I think you can set it to do the telephoto. Which I guess is changing lenses, but it's not like moving the lenses around or anything like that. My colleague Andrew Langson at CNET, he got one of these and wrote a really good review of it, and some of his pictures that he took are amazing. And he pointed out one of the things that he likes about it, partially because it is genuine Leica and has genuine Leica math behind it and glass behind it. It does a really good job of preserving dark tones and giving, like, avoiding that processed look that so many phone cameras give right now. And so, I don't know. I think it's got a red dot on it. People are going to buy it because of that, honestly. But what's nice to see is that it seems to live up to what you would expect it to be versus, oh, well, they just slapped Leica branding on it and they're charging more for it.
Yeah. Which I think they've done that in the past. And the difference here is they're actually putting the Leica label. And Leica has partnered with other phone companies before Xiaomi, and they've partnered with other companies. They work with Panasonic, and some of the small Leica portable cameras are just basically rebranded Panasonic cameras, which may have Leica lenses or some improvements. But I mean, they've been doing this kind of thing for years. Anyway, $2,300, buy yourself a good Mac instead, and or buy a camera for $1,500 and a phone.
One last thing about that Xiaomi phone or the Leica phone, I would need to go check this out, but I don't know if that Lights phone is going to be in the U.S. I think that's just internationally. I think in the U.S. there's going to be a Xiaomi 17 Ultra that has many of the features, but not the full set. So in the U.S., you may not even be able to get this.
So why are we even talking about it?
Because it's cool, man.
It's an interesting proof of concept.
Because Jeff and Kirk are here to help you spend money, if not on SSDs, then on camera equipment that you don't really need. Before we say until next time, remember that we have our Facebook group, our PhotoActive Facebook group. I'm very curious to know who is looking at maybe getting a MacBook Neo or ignoring a MacBook Neo, or if you want to go full on Spec Goblin, that's a good place to do it. Might ignore you, but you can get it out of your system. All right.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to PhotoActive. You can find show notes, including any photos we discuss in this episode, at photoactive.co. That's photoactive.co. We couldn't afford the M. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/photoactivecast. That's PhotoActiveCast in one word. You can subscribe to PhotoActive in your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts. See the links on our website. And think about leaving us a rating or review in iTunes or in your podcast.